thank you, everybody. And I know people are just moving over. And as I talk about the great things about Dr. Sarah Day, hopefully everyone will have joined. So Dr. Sarah Day is Assistant Dean for the Center for Community and Global Partnerships. Her career has focused on development, implementation, and management of nursing programs and models. Her programs and models have improved the outcomes for underserved children and have been implemented nationally and internationally. She has worked to empower nurses and to provide quality nursing care and created nursing programs to advance the nursing work environment through education and empowerment and quality standards. The results of her research have affected policy at local, national, and international levels. She has published 34 publications in peer-reviewed medical and nursing journals with more than 600 citations. She has traveled to 16 countries to present or directly implement her nursing program. She has received grant funding from the National Institutes of Health, Health Resources and Services Administration, Oncology Nursing Society, and the West Foundation. In 2014, she was inducted as a fellow for the American Academy of Nursing for significant contributions to nursing and health. She will present with me the Empowering the Future and overview of the sickle cell disease, Train the Trainer Bootcamp, and an IS-CNAPA online nursing curriculum. So thank you again. You all know me, so I'm not going to take any more time talking about myself. But so I'm going to talk first about our sickle cell nursing curriculum that IS-CNAPA has developed. And I want to first start with the why. So my why, this is a video that several of our children wrote and directed and developed with the help of Sheila Potts Wrights, who was a local singer. And it's called Born With It. I was born with it and I'll die with it. And this is my why. And you can see their faces in the background, but this was done in 2005. And since that time, hundreds, probably thousands of patients have gone on and they've grown up. And they still would come back to us and they would tell us, well, so-and-so had X, Y, or Z problem when she was pregnant. So-and-so had this happen when they were in the hospital. So-and-so had this happen when they were in the hospital. And it became quite evident very quickly that transition phase was a dangerous time for our patients. And it also became quite apparent that a lot of nurses didn't know much about sickle cell disease. And I'm just gonna play like 2 seconds of this video.
We don't hear your video, Miss Yvonne.
Years old. I had I was born this man. I'm 15-year-old and I had a sister, and I can wait a museum to get 2 minutes and draw from it. Whatever I go through, I'm preparing for my new life experience. Try to keep my head and stay strong.
So what concerned me was that these were children, and they made the the video. I'm born with it. I'm gonna die with it. And it disturbed me way back in 2005 because they were thinking about death, and children shouldn't think about death. And not a lot have changed. I mean, we're still fighting the same battle, and we need to change. And so that was my why for doing this, for starting, gathering a group of wonderful, wonderful nurses and advanced practice nurses to help develop a curriculum. And so ISCA Napa, the board was kind enough to say they will fund this. It was solely funded by ISCA Napa, no drug company money, no outside money, because they wanted the curriculum to be something that anybody could use. And a lot of institutions have problems with and will not show something that has drug company branding or branding for other institutions. So this, it was developed because we all know of the nursing gap. I'm not going to go into this, and I think Sarah will talk about it some more, but we all know that there has been, I've walked in rooms and I go in and the room is freezing. And I'm like, why is your room freezing? Are you cold? And they said, no, the nurse turned the thermostat down because I had a temperature. And I'm like, I can't tell you how many individual education sessions I had to give, but over the past 20 years. But we want to do it on a national level so everybody can have this information. So started this in July of 2020, probably a little before that, and naively thought we would be finished by in 2022. We're still, it will be up. All of the content is done and it will be available on our website, and we're revamping our website by July of 2022. And this is just the timeline that shows how naive that I was, even after all the years of developing educational material. But the one thing that we did was we wanted to make sure that it was done systematically, and that all of the content was vetted and reviewed to make sure it was correct content. And so the first thing we did was assemble a team of great people. And I tell you, when I say great people, I mean great people. And it is just a love of doing this, because this is all outside of everyone's job. This is voluntary and it's taken a lot of work. So assembled a team of experts. We had focus groups for sickle cell warriors and providers to determine what the gaps were, what they wanted out of it, developed an online curriculum. We did a lit review. We've developed content. Then the content was reviewed. Every single module was reviewed by a sickle cell warrior, a nursing expert, and a hematologist to make sure all of our curriculum and content was correct. Then we developed a standardized nursing template, and we are deploying it in a stepwise manner. And we used a modified Delphi method with surveys and focus groups. I talked about the surveys. We asked about skills, and we asked warriors and providers to complete a Likert scale with these skills. And pretty much the important thing was the providers and warriors were pretty much on the same page. The disease knowledge was huge. That disease knowledge and shared decision making was about equal in warriors in their viewpoint for skills. And then, of course, communication. The communication was first with the providers. What I found interesting is research has been done that when you receive care from people of the same race or culture as you, that usually people feel more they feel more comfortable, and the care is more precise in certain instances. Well, this was the lowest on both of the warriors and the provider scale for sickle cell disease. So I think that speaks well of our community and our providers. And so this was basically the personality traits. What do you want to see? What is most important in a caregiver? And again, gave it to warriors and gave it to providers, and they were almost identical in this. And so trustworthy and honest, that was the most important thing, that the warriors could feel that they trusted their providers as well. You should be able to feel that you trust your providers. That's why we go to specialists. We want their expertise. We want their knowledge. And so if you can't trust them, then you can't accept anything that they're telling you. Compassion, empathy, respect. And so I was really happy to see that pretty much for how you should react to people. And we all say, treat other people as you would want to be treated, or better yet, as your loved ones would want to be treated. So on the focus groups, we held 2 focus groups each with the providers and warriors. And I'll give you the results for the warriors. And it was really disconcerting to see that one of the main themes that came out of that was fear. And it was all types of fear. They feared that you had to act a certain way, that if you act like you were too knowledgeable and knew your protocol and gave it to the providers, that they would penalize you for it. The fear that you would get kicked out of practice. And we all know that sickle cell warriors get kicked out of practice. And if you're the only hematologist in the area, when you get kicked out, what the heck is the warrior supposed to do? So that was a fear, that if you were too antagonistic or fought too hard, that you would get kicked out and you wouldn't have anywhere to go. The fear of a parent for their child, feeling that they couldn't do anything for their children, that they were helpless. And the fear that their nurses don't have the knowledge that they need, that they don't know about sickle cell disease. So they don't know what they're doing. And you're at the mercy of someone in the hospital who doesn't know what the heck they're doing. And that's a horrible feeling. So the next thing that arose was they felt dehumanized. There was so many stories, and one which just sticks in my mind was a warrior said they were in pain, and they rang for their pain medication, and the nurse came in, and she had the pain medication in her hands, and she stood by the side of the bed. It was like maybe 4 to 5 minutes before it was time for the medication. And the nurse stood there holding the medicine and looked at her and said, well, I can't give the medicine until, for another 5 minutes. So you'll just have to wait. And so just the cruelty of knowing that there are providers that could do such a thing, and that lack empathy. But imagine how, and I could still feel it. I mean, that had happened years ago to that warrior. And I'm telling you, she was still in tears talking about that encounter. And there have been stories of where nurses don't feel comfortable. They told warriors that they don't feel comfortable giving the amount of medication, and that's a lack of knowledge. That's just something that you're ignorant about if you don't feel comfortable giving medication to people with sickle cell disease. And of course, we've talked about this whole conference, the racism, systemic, and the biases of people that they run into. And one gave an experience that they had sickle cell disease, but then they developed cancer. And they said the way they were treated when they had cancer was so different than the way they were treated when they had sickle cell disease. Same hospital, but the only difference was the diagnosis. And so just the bias against the diagnosis itself. So our content was basically 20 modules, and these are the ones that are completely formatted. All of the content is complete. So you can take a look at these, and we tried to think of throughout the lifespan and cover as much as we could. Like I said, this will be a stepwise process. So we will add to this as we go. We've already been told that we need to add some other modules, and we will. But I'm telling you, it's taken us quite a while to get to this point. And so we will add more as we go along. But it's really exciting, and I'll show you a part of the curriculum when we go. And so this is our pain module that has, and we decided to do this, and it's silent. And we decided to do this in a way that nurses could take, that would take them about 20 minutes or so, 20 to 30 minutes, and they could come back and they could review it over and over. And so we wanted to make sure that it was something that institutions could take, and they could put it in as part of their standardized, and that's our hope, the standardized training for all hematology nurses who take care of people with sickle cell disease. Because most institutions do not have a specific curriculum to train nurses when they start taking care of people with sickle cell disease. And a lot of rural hospitals have hem-onc. And so it may be 85% oncology and 15% hematology. And those same nurses take care of the oncology and the hematology patients. So they just lack training and knowledge. So this is just, it was done in articulate rise, and obviously they wouldn't go through this fast, but it was developed again so nurses could take it and it would be available. There's a quiz after, and for our pilot, we did a pre and post quiz. And we tried to make it engaging so that the nurses would have to click on different points. So they would, one, so we would know they were still there, but two, so they would be involved. And it was an interactive learning session, even though it was a silent learning session. And I tell you, we had a great educational designer who formatted this for us. And so that's the basic gist of it. And so we had a wonderful doctoral student who, I love doctoral students, who is now Dr. Salorm Ansa, who took this project on and specifically took our pain module and did it as part of her dissertation and had it evaluated by nurses. And you can see in the conclusions that the pain module had positive impact on the knowledge of nurses and improved the confidence, which is even more important. The nurses felt like they knew what they were doing, of nurses who care for people with sickle cell disease. And so I just want to give a thank you to our focus group members and also to our developmental curriculum developmental team, and our content evaluators, and especially our graphic designer. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague.
Well, Yvonne, how much time do I have?
You have we're gonna go, you know, we'll go to, because we started late.
Can you pull up? Do you have
pulling-
the slides?
Okay, I am. Of course, why would I not have technical? Hold on, let me pull up a share thing. Share screen, here we go.
Okay. All right. So I am going to just tag on to what Yvonne has talked about and talk about our boot camp. So this is a live experience to go along with our online. So, but we know this, we all know this, nurses have an opportunity to improve the outcomes and quality of life with patients with sickle cell disease. But they cannot do this. I mean, they can be very caring, but they cannot provide quality care if they don't understand the complications of sickle cell disease. So for this reason, we developed the boot camp to promote nursing excellence. And this really, we've had one boot camp and now we've got 2 more scheduled. It's been a great experience. It's a first opportunity for nurses across the nation and now globally to come together and learn about sickle cell disease in an academic setting. So it's knowledge, it's skills, it's very holistic, and I'll kind of go over the curriculum. So let me see if this works. No.
Just tell me when you want to advance.
Oh yeah, advance. I'm trying to do it myself. Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll get coordinated. So, all right, this is, Yvonne talked about her why. Mine is for 20 years, I took care of, infants, young children, and young adults. And I saw so many deaths, lost so many patients. And I always look, analyze, where did they die? What did they die from? What could have been done different? I mean, that's a tragedy to have someone die, but it's very hard to live with when you know that if someone knowledgeable about sickle cell disease had picked up those symptoms in time, that child could have been saved. And a lot of times what it is, and it's a nurse, is the first responder, really. They're the ones who are doing that 24-hour surveillance. If they know the symptoms and can insist on, the appropriate treatment, that can make all the difference in the world. So just again, one thing about sickle cell disease is it's one of the most complicated diseases you can try to learn. It's from head to toe. And I realized that early on when I started, learning about sickle cell disease, it's not something you can sit down and learn it quickly. You have to understand every system in the body and every possible complication. But most of the complications with early detection, they can be turned around. So that's the key right here, is knowing how to assess, knowing what those symptoms are, understanding the disease. And again, nurses are the frontline workers. It's not the physician who's there when the patient's condition starts changing. So, okay, fine. All right, this is one of my favorite slides. It shows you just the narrow window of opportunity. And this is for sepsis, but it's almost the same time frame for splenic sequestration and for acute chest, which is the leading cause of death for young adults. So we'll look at this. Zero, you just have one organism, bacterial organism, obviously no clinical manifestation. So look down, this is exponential. You know, your 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 4 is 16, and on till you get up to 16 million. But in 4 hours, you still don't really have any symptoms of fever. You are going to feel something though, and you know sometimes it can be picked up that early. But 2 more hours and you are officially septic. 10 hours, you're in septic shock. You can still be turned around in septic shock depending on how advanced it is. But at 12 hours, you really can't. The thing is, if septic shock in a person that does not have an underlying disease is easier to turn around, septic shock in anybody with a chronic illness is a lot harder to turn around. So this is that window of opportunity. You miss that window of opportunity, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't turn them around. So this is where the nurse, who's the frontline person, comes in. And this is really true. This is true. The same thing with splenic sequestration and acute chest. Those are ones that just escalate in that, you know, cycle effect of more sickling, less oxygen, and you know all of that. So sickle cell disease, if you like science and physiology and pathophysiology, it's really you know, it's interesting to study, because the more you study it, the more you know how critical it is to catch things early. So what did we do? So we have a curriculum committee of sickle cell experts from across the country, and they were assigned content based on their area of expertise. Now, this content is going to be very similar to what is going to be in the modules, but it's different because it's live and there's interactive. You know, we have like activities. You know, it's student focused. So we integrated, you know, typical cornerstones of nursing education. We focused on physiology, pathophysiology, but clinical skills, assessment skills, attitudes and values, evidence, and evidence-based practice. They all the nurses in the first boot camp did an evidence-based practice, like article review, and presented it to the group. So, okay. So we had a peer review process, you know, sent to experts, just like Yvonne described what they did with the modules. And the competencies focused on like physical assessment. You know, acute chest syndrome is where we focused on assessment skills and did a simulation with that, just because that is the leading cause of death. And if it's picked up before it gets out of hand, it can be turned around. So this is our committee. You will recognize some of these people. I think Yvonne and I are in the very back because we're tall. Okay, our very first boot camp was June 13th through the 16th. A very hot week in Memphis, extremely warm, to say the least. This has been supported by Global Blood Therapeutics grant. Also, you know, St. Jude provided some funding. So it's been a wonderful partnership between University of Tennessee Health Science Center, St. Jude, and IS-CNEPRA. So the content was taught by our planning and curriculum committee. And when we had a one-day patient panel, which was wonderful, and we will always include that. It just got us all focused on the patient, you know, and their experience. And we did again clinical competencies in our simulation lab at UT. So the next is the picture. This is our patient panel. And I think those the three on my left, I took care of them when they were babies. So, but that was very moving. Everyone, you know, that it just got the whole week started off right. Yes, one of my patients, she just texted. So again, we have a same curriculum, really kind of through the life cycle. One thing with sickle cell disease, and that's why we long time ago decided to have clinics kind of based on age ranges. When you're dealing, trying to teach a family with a newborn, it's very different than when you're teaching a family and a teenager. So, and they have different complications take on, more, you put more emphasis on different complications depending on the life cycle. So, so of course we had to measure outcomes. We did a pre and post test. We had significant improvement, did the, good old p-value. And of course, because it's such a long, it's a long week, a lot of content, but it is, believe me, it is so interactive. No one sits there and just listens to talks. The participants talk as much as the ones who are providing care. So at the end of every day, they fill out an evaluation. So. Okay, so thank you, Vaughn. 15 participants successfully completed, and 15 attended. No one did not successfully complete. But it was a great group because it was very diverse. We had some from Memphis, and you can see here, that we had from many other cities represented in other colleges. And it was a good, I guess, diversity and type of providers. We had bedside nurses, we had college professors, we had case managers, we had coordinators, we had educators, patient advocates. So it was absolutely a wonderful week. So yeah, okay. All right, the comments, we love the comments. I think you're going to kind of see, I'm not a qualitative researcher, but there's a theme in these comments. I cannot wait to do all I can to make the lives and outcomes better for my patients. We have work to cut out for us, but impact for sickle cell disease population. And they go on and say that this it helped with the passion. It gave them energy. So fill me back up. I am brimming, over with motivation, electrifying, essential information. All the presentations has been helpful. But it was the interaction with the group, excellent experience. So I think everyone, and I know we all as, the teachers and organizers thought, we were motivated as much as those who attended it. And we also met with all the teachers and, our committee met before, just to get the curriculum organized. And then we met again most recently this year in preparation for our next boot camp. So now what's a little bit of a discussion, kind of summary. The lives of patients with sickle cell disease are dependent on a nurse's ability to detect early symptoms of life-threatening complications and implement or initiate appropriate treatment. Specialty education for nurses caring for patients is critical need and long overdue. Patients with sickle cell disease are often placed in HEMOC units where the oncology takes a priority. nurses who provide care to cancer patients, and in schools, you know, nursing schools, they really do not teach much oncology. They don't teach much sickle cell. It might be 5 minutes, and oncology might get 30 minutes. But hospitals will give specialized education to nurses on the oncology unit, and they have to get certification to give chemotherapy. There's nothing like that required for sickle cell. There's no oversight. And they are just as complex as cancer patients. And actually, the complications that kill them can be so sudden and they can deteriorate so quickly. It's just a unique property of sickle cell disease, and one that, you know, is often missed. So this boot camp plus the curriculum that will be online, we feel like, you know, this is going to be an important first step. We'd like to see accreditation. We have a lot of big dreams. So just a little bit about, very quickly, what's coming up next is our Train the Trainer boot camp, which will be in April.
Okay.
It's on the next. Yeah, it's on the next slide. Do you want to show them that one? Okay, so that next boot camp is April 17th through the 21st. And then we will have another one scheduled in November. And Vaughn, you want to tell them just a second about how many people applied? And
Yeah, so I think, and I hate to say it, but we're going to have to end this session, but we had over almost 45 people applied, and I think we're having like 25 people that will be in attendance. So we will let you know when our next application for our boot camp opens. And Sarah, did you want to say any last thing? We will answer your questions in Wahoo, and I apologize for we got behind, and that's probably wasn't a good idea for me to be a talker. Speak. So
it's okay.
Okay, did you want to say any last thing before we get out, Sarah?
No, just keep this in mind. We will have another one in November, and you know, we're going to try to have this moving forward twice a year forever.
All right, thank you, everybody.